Good evening and welcome to Face to Face for the Newsfirst team. I'm Jayathilake. Sri Lanka is moving forward into the future, but many of our public and private sector institutions have a lot of employees who need a lot of training, a lot of coaching, because we have not upskilled and reskilled enough over the last several years. We need to be more competitive, and this is where the profession of coaching comes in, and I'm delighted to be joined this evening by two highly qualified and talented professional coaches. That's Andrea Jayathilake, who is the president of the Colombo chapter of the International Coaching Federation, ICF, and Azeem Saheer, who is the vice president of the Colombo chapter of ICF. Good evening and welcome to both of you.
Good evening, Niresh. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Right. So when we say coaching, what is it that we mean? And we're not talking about sports coaching. We are talking about the skills that you need for your job, for your profession, and for life itself, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's an interesting analogy that you use sports coaching, because most of the time when we say coaching, people think it's sports coaching. And maybe long years ago, that's probably the way coaching started, because that's the word coach we were very familiar with. But when we look at professional coaching, we're really looking at the science of human capacity development. So there is a science and art of how we actually tap into the potential of a human being. And it happens through a conversation. A coach is actually an expert to facilitate that guided conversation, which helps a person to really provoke their thinking and come up with creative ideas and things that they would have never ever thought of. So yes, I think at a time like this, where we are constantly faced with a very, what can I say? The world is so complex, right? So to face that complexity, we need to definitely reskill, upskill, and coaching is probably one of those catalysts. Yeah.
Right. Now, Sahir, let me get this straight. Now, coaching is basically unlocking the potential in every human being, isn't it? Because we have talents which we don't know about, and we are afraid to step forward and try these things. I mean, in most places you ask for volunteers to try something new, and everybody is shy, everybody is embarrassed, they don't feel they can do it. But there's nothing that we actually can't do. I mean, we can't obviously become neurosurgeons overnight, but there's so much that human beings can do which they don't realize.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. The capacity, the word you said, the capability, capacity, every human has their own capacity and capability. The challenge, me and you, everyone has it, how to identify that. Sometime in our own self, we think a lot, okay, I know this, I know that, this is my limit, this is my ceiling. But having someone coming and talking to you, having that conversation, asking that powerful right questions can really trigger your mind to write, oh, Niresh, okay, I can do this. That aha moment can come. So that's where we're talking about unlocking that potential within which they have them, which they have never ever tried before. We see in the children and the childhood, because they're very creative. The capacity to be creative is different human to human. But when the time goes up, when we come through our life cycle, when we go through a maturity cycle, sometimes we get trapped into one particular certain area if we keep focusing. And that's where we always believe having a coach can really help you, because having that conversation can really help to navigate certain barriers, certain challenges we have in ourselves. So it unleash. So your mind opens up. Okay, let me try that. Let me try this. Is something we always wanted a human potential to unleash, because I don't think we can ever match a human capability so far in this world, which is so powerful. And that's why we say having that human to human, one-on-one conversation can really help people to bring that awareness, tap their subconscious mind, bring that awareness out to, unleash their potential.
Right. Now, Andrea, I'm thinking about this huge problem that our country faces with 1.7 million public servants, including the state-owned enterprises, and we have perhaps 4 times as many as we actually need. But you can't send those people home. The government has been very clear that nobody's going to lose their jobs, but there needs to be a reskilling. People who have learnt very little because they had very little to do in those institutions now need to learn new skills. So the question is, can a person who is in his 40s or 50s, is that person able to reskill as readily, as easily as a person who is 22 years old?
Yeah. I love that question because I think it comes from a place of change, because so that person has been used to something for a very long time. And like you said, maybe with limited skills, because that was the exposure that the person actually got to have. So how resilient and ready are we to change? Usually, I think majority of us resist the change. We like normalcy. So the minute you're put into change, people have this resistance. So coaching, for me, I always see as a catalyst to enable change. And I see this whole public sector story, Niresh, I think it starts with the leadership. So how equipped are the leaders in the public sector to draw out the potential in those people who are there so that they can find new skills? It's very easy to tell people what to do, but they're not going to do it. So how do we engage in a conversation which is meaningful, that will help a person to explore the innate capacities that they have never explored before? And I think in that journey of exploration, people find that, oh, this is something I'd like to step into. And job transition is something we see not just in the public sector, I think even in the corporate sector. Jobs are getting null and void. All of us as individuals will have to now be ready to kind of step into something new. Alone, it's difficult. And I would think, like, if it takes you 1 year to do this alone, if you have a guided conversation with the coach, probably you will be able to do this faster. So by really upskilling leaders to have these coaching skills, I think there is a big take, because as leaders, we need to now be able to deal with the complexities. What we mostly hear is blame on the current generation or the less skilled. But how do we equip ourselves to really draw out the potential of human beings? Because wisdom in human beings is there. It's the role of the leader to really draw this out. And I think as leaders, it's a wake-up call for all of us. If we don't do this very soon, we will be like dinosaurs, and we know where dinosaurs are, extincting the museum. So I don't think any of us want to be leaders like that. So for me, I believe that upskilling of leaders is probably one core thing that will help us to navigate the issue in the public sector.
Right. And staying with the public sector here, I'm thinking that many people, when they're young, the pressure to get a job is there. So they end up in jobs which they don't necessarily like, especially in the public sector, but even in the private sector. You're so happy, your parents are happy, now you can get a proper marriage as well, you've got a job, you're permanent, but you may not actually be cut out for that job. That may not be what you want to do, but there is something else in life that you want to do, but you may not even know what that is. So is it, how important is it to sort of figure out what these people individually want to do?
So Niresh, I think you're touching the segment of a generation context what we are trying to talk about. Yes, you're absolutely right. So I started as a salesperson because I just want to get into a job. But now my role is different. Now, by the latter time of maturity, we understand what we want to do, and that's what we are doing at the moment. But I think now the generation is so intelligent and so wise. They are more aware because of technology. The information is freely available on your fingertips, so they have the accessibility and choose what they want to do. So it's much more easier. Those days we used to, company choose us, but these days individual choose the company which they want to go, because so much of information available. I think this is the crucial point where this whole coaching context need to come in. I think most of the schools are now getting people in terms of counseling, getting career guidance programs in, to make sure that now some of the schools, they start from grade 8, the career guidance program, so they guide them where they want to be. It doesn't necessarily now to be an engineer, now to be a doctor or a lawyer. Now we are talking about chefs. Now we are talking about AI specialist, cybersecurity specialist. So it's the world has changed because information technology freely available with us. Our responsibility as leaders or elders and matured individuals to help these children to get into the right track, and coaching can be also involved. I do coach my children at home.
Yeah.
She does also, because why? We understood every child has their potential, and as parents, as leaders, as Andrea also said, it's our role and responsibility to identify what's the hidden talent behind this child or the employee, so we can untap through this particular whole methodology or a tool, so-called coaching. And this can really help our country as a whole, because if we have people getting into the right places they want to be. Now, I know government is trying to do a lot of entrepreneurship, driving entrepreneurship, because everybody cannot go to the public sector. Somebody need to go somewhere in private sector also. You can't go. Entrepreneurship is encouraged. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs. School time, there are entrepreneurs. So this is where guiding and leadership need to be evolved, and try to understand how to have this set of next generation of leaders of the country to get into the right place, which help the country to grow and get developed.
Right. Andrea, now there's been a lot of focus on the education system and a lot of talk about the need to revamp it, that it clearly is not good enough for our country, for the modern world, basically. And for decades, the private sector, the CEOs, the chairman, they have kept on complaining that people who come out of our school system are unemployable, and even many who come out of our university system are unemployable. But it's not a lack of skills, it is the fact that they haven't found the proper skills, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, so when we talk about that, there are two things there, because I think every space is an ecosystem. So if you take the school, you have the teacher, you have the student, and then you have the parent. So if you really look at that, sometimes we now see the current generation, they are quite knowledgeable, they know what they want to do, they want to ask the tough questions. Now, as teachers, are we ready to deal with that? So just yesterday, I was having a conversation with a school, and this was one of the questions the teacher said. Like, sometimes the kids are so smart, and then you don't know how to handle that, how to discipline them in that space. So I think long years ago, we kind of had the carrot stick approach, and you tell them what to do, you are strict to them. But now teachers are also challenged to bring in different ways of teaching, which actually fosters and nurtures the child's creativity. So yes, there is a lot of change that is required there, because there's still a dilemma in the teachers also. Should we still be strict and restrict them, or should we? Discipline is important. We know that consistency and discipline brings results, but how are we nurturing creativity in that space? So if we look at the West, Niresh, we see a lot of countries going into coaching, even at the level of youth, and especially for educators. So that's a very important skill, because when we learn coaching, we really learn the fundamentals of a powerful conversation. How can we have a conversation in a way that the child will open up to you in a way that they've not opened up to anybody? And that is why I think kids sometimes say, oh, that teacher changed my life. And we need more of that in the education system. So yeah, definitely I think there's a lot of room for us to use these skills in those spaces.
Right. So, Azeem, tell us a little bit about the profession of coaching. How do you get into it? And this is a professional qualification. It is a global federation. How do you actually get into it?
So ICF stands for International Coaching Federation. It's one of the largest coaching body in the world. More than 60,000 plus members globally, and 120 plus countries. It's the coaches are available. So it's a program which helps people to learn the science and the art and the fundamentals of coaching. So it has in Sri Lanka we have a couple of schools which provide this particular learning space for people to come into this particular profession. At the same time, there are different layers how you go. You can get it the core part of it, certificate, and just learn the basic of coaching and start getting into it. But after that, there is a pathway they can go and go up to the mastery part of it. From, for example, we say from associate certified coaches, professional certified coaches, then you have the mastery. So every level has a different line of learning, and it keeps evolving, and practice is keep evolves. So if you want, yes, there might be people who said, okay, I'm a coach. Yes, we do know that there is people who coach, and we respect them, and we need coaches like that in the country, because you can't just have a limited sort of it. But it's always, we recommend always good to learn the science and the art of that particular coaching, so that will give you lot of strength and that particular mobility for people to help people in the right way. In the corporate context, just to say, like when we say like coaching, sometimes people say it's mentoring. So there is a quite distinct difference between coaching and mentoring. That's why we always say that you need to learn this particular space of coaching to understand how different it from mentoring. So that is a professional qualification. More than we say a qualification, it's a skill. It's a human skill that we always need to nurture, because it can help every individual in this particular globe. Might be a teacher, might be a fireman, might be a policeman, might be a business leader, because it's a human to human conversation, and how to develop that skill is what that profession is about.
Right. And Andrea, could you tell us a bit about coaching in Sri Lanka, how it evolved, and about the Colombo chapter of ICF?
Yeah. So I think it's like just adding to what Azeem said, it's an honor and a privilege that we are affiliated with ICF Global, because ICF Global does a lot of work around the global standards of coaching and ethics. So I think with any profession, especially when we're working with a human being, there has to be an ethical guideline. And ICF does a lot of that backbone of work for us. So actually, Niresh, how it all started in 2018, a few of us who were quite passionate people to kind of impact individuals who were studying coaching in little ways, we got together and we started something called the Association of Professional Coaches of Sri Lanka. That was in 2018. Back then, we used to meet in like a house of one of the coaches and have tea and discuss about what we can do in the country, and, conversations that kind of led us to where we are today. In 2021, we formed the ICF Colombo chapter. And for us to be able to form a chapter, we need to have a prerequisite of a minimum of 25 global members. So in 2021, we met that criterion and we were able to form the chapter. So one of the biggest visions for ICF Colombo chapter is to upskill the profession of coaching. So we know that for a long time, we used to have coaches coming from abroad. Sometimes corporates still probably lean into that.
But
However,
that's much less now, isn't it?
it's much less now, and I think the chapter plays a big role to upskill the profession. So we ensure that the training is of a good standard, and we support people to guide them into moving into those directions. So, like Azeem said, the ACC is the first level. The credential is just a vetting system, but there's so much of work that an individual has to go through that vetting process. So there is training hours, there is practice, there is examinations, there is recordings. So you know that a person has really built some muscles to really be a coach and show up as a coach. So the Colombo chapter keeps this community together, and we do a lot of events of education, networking, so that coaches can learn from each other, and we bring knowledge from across the globe. So we do have speakers on webinars and things like that to ensure that even leaders as well as coaches are upskilled constantly.
Right. And Azeem, what are the popular subjects of coaching in Sri Lanka? We see, things like leadership development and so on. But and has that changed over the years?
I think now it's a good sign for us to say that a lot of people are like really picking up this whole element of coaching. If you really see, as initially we mentioned, coaching is a methodology and a science. If you can build that muscles around you, identifying your niche or identifying your core area, for example, might be someone like mindfulness coach. Sometimes might be people like life coaches, executive coaches, leadership coaches. So the coaching line will be differ person to person based on the speciality of that person brings into the coaching environment. But the most important thing, whichever the line you build, it's important you build that foundation of coaching muscles into the system, so you can navigate whatever the coaching criteria or the line you pick up. That's how it works.
Right. And Andrea, what about the challenge of AI, artificial intelligence? How does this factor in? Because now more than ever before, people are afraid of losing their jobs. And people are losing their jobs, especially in Western countries, not so much in countries like Sri Lanka, where we still keep our people within our companies. But it's a matter of time before automation takes over various tasks. So how does AI figure into this equation?
Yeah. I think this is a hot topic that's been spoken about these days. Even our conference, there's going to be a topic around that. And what I see is that if you look at the 2030 skills of human beings, we know that AI can do a lot of things, but the skills that are going to be most needed is emotional intelligence, coaching. So yes, there is analytical skills and all of that will come about, but we know that these new skills are showing up. And I think, like, even if you take a coach, Niresh, we need to use AI support, because if not, we are going to really be null and void very soon. However, AI can only do certain things for us. How do we really have a human to human connection? So in a coaching conversation, like just between you and me, we have to build this trust and safety to speak and open up. So that can only be done by a human being, because I think there is a deep concept called African proverb that says "Sawubona," I see you. And I think as a human being, we can see each other in a very different way, while AI can support us to bring in the administration, make things a little bit easier. So for me, I feel there are definitely skills that will still be needed. And yes, if we are getting like de-skilled, how do we upskill ourselves? How do we find new direction? In order to do that, I think engaging with a coach or a mentor or something that will help you to find something deeper, which is above the surface. I always think of the iceberg concept, right? So there's a little bit that we see, but there's so much more as us, as human beings, that we have as wisdom. So can we find that way? So I think conversations which are meaningful, and finding that time, because most of the time leaders say we don't have time for these conversations.
Now that's an important point. So Azeem, how important is it to find the time? Because actually, the more senior you become, the less time you have. You simply can't take 2 or 3 days off and get coached in something. But what that also means is that you as a CEO or a director or general manager, you will lack the skills that perhaps your competitor CEO in another company, or even let's say a company from India, would have those skills. So how do you balance this?
So I think that's where the coaching comes also very handy, because as you rightly said, the more you climb up the ladder, the more the pressure is going to be, the more altitude going to be very tough, and you need to be responsible, accountable for a lot of things, a lot of people, and finding time is tough. But then again, if you don't groom your bottom or a middle layer to take up those extra things from you, where you can create that time for you. The challenge is that growing that second layer or third layer is a challenge, and that's why coaching comes to identify that potential and enable them to do the task as a CEO what you have. At the same time, you as a CEO also need to have some time to develop your own skill, because as you rightly say, AI, and if you are not knowing the terminology, and okay, there are people like, they say I don't use WhatsApp. There are people who say I don't use Instagram, or look, it's a personal preference. But if you're not in that particular network, you're going to lose out loud at this particular moment in the world, because there are a lot of information shared through the technology and social media. But finding time is important. We all say we all are busy bee. Busyness is just a word, and if you can manage to find groom people for you to take over your task, so you spend more important time for you to develop your own skill. And technology is so important. Sometimes if you're not well versed in technology, hire a person to get trained for you on that particular escape. So 2 things: if you are a leader, be a coach the rest of the layers to rise up to the moment. At the same time, you hire a coach, because you also have a lot of untapped potential which you are not aware about it. So that can help also. Again, busyness and for me is just a word that we all try to use to make some excuse.
Right. Well, I'll remember that next time. Next time I feel overwhelmed with so many tasks, I will certainly remember that. Now, Andrea, you have this massive event coming up. Tell us about it.
Okay, so one of the key parts of ICF Colombo chapter again is to educate the community in Sri Lanka. The international conference we are having on the 24th and 25th of September at Cinnamon Life is themed Humanity 5.0. And there is a lot of conversation around the theme, and I'll go a little bit more into that, but I'll tell you why we do this. So the first conference happened in 2023, and this is our second conference since the inception of the chapter. So one core reason is to create awareness of coaching and also to take what is there in the West and in the globe to our coaches and our leaders. So the conference is with international speakers. We have local panelists and speakers also to represent the culture and how much of coaching happens here, for us to really understand what else is there for us to do in our country. So that's one of the core purposes of running the conference. And I think it's really great that to the run-up of the conference, we are almost sold out in our tickets. So we're really looking forward to a great event. I'm sure Azeem can also share a little bit more on the concept and what the conference theme is about. Yeah.
Azeem, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so as Andrea said, it's Humanity 5.0, what the theme is about. Why Humanity 5.0? We have heard the terminology of Industry Revolution 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and very soon 5.0 is going to come. So are we as humans ready for it? are we capable to gear up to the moment? And we are also just, waves are coming up in terms of artificial intelligence perspective. Now what we are going through, that we have identified 3 pillars in terms of how to evolve in this particular highly technical complex world, which is full of evolving technology in the surface. So the theme is like evolution of me. How as an individual should I rise up? Should I upskill myself to face the future challenges? And it's going to be enormous. It's going to be difficult, because we are talking about AI agenting. And for example, supply chain department might be shut down because AI will take all of it. Contact center might shut down because AI can take all of it. But as an individual, do I wait until it take up, or do I rise up? So that's what the evolution of me, one of the key speakers, will talk about. Second part is we. This is more into corporate context or a public administrator context. How we as a team get together to rise up to the moment. What do we need? How should we collaborate each other? How that human factor we are going to bring with trust? How do you foster excellence within our team so we can move forward and navigate the wave? And the last part is the most important part. We feel, Niresh, the message we want to give to the community is how to build community. We Sri Lankans are very good at it. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't sustain that community. We fall down because of the whole hype. But what we thought is coaching, conversation can help build communities. So we are bringing a speaker to talk about how to build communities through conversation. How do you build belonging with the community? Because if you look at Sri Lankan context, there is a social impact at the moment happening. Lot of unnecessary stuff getting into the school systems. Children are going out of different focus areas. A lot of unethical stuff happening in the environment of the society. So how we can, as coaches, as Sri Lankans, as human beings, come together to find out certain solutions to solve these community problems through building community. So this is how we are going to bring human as a centerpiece, despite most of the technological part happening. So I'm not saying ignoring technology. We are going to use the technology, but bring more human first future into the context.
Right. And Andrea, would you like to tell us a little bit more about the speakers at your conference?
Yeah. So I think, like Azeem said, so I'll start from the community piece because he stopped there. One core part of the work we do is also to create a thriving community in the country. Yes, there are individuals, there are organizations, but the community at large. So we have a speaker coming in from Qatar who really specializes in building communities of women leaders and so many other, disadvantaged groups and so on. To couple with that, we have an amazing local speaker who is very profound in terms of the community work, Mr. Kushil Gomes, who will actually come in, Kushil Gunasekara, who will come in to talk about the impact of the work he has done. So I think that can be a very inspiring ground for all of us as participants, because what I hear most of the time is everybody wants to do something. But like, what really gets you going there? And I think Kushil Gunasekara's story can be a profound story for us to listen in there. Similarly, we have 2 other MCC coaches coming in, one from India, one from Singapore. So that's the credential I was talking about, master certified coaches. And we have a PCC coach coming in from Dubai. So they will be taking on the segments which Azeem was talking about in terms of the me, the we, and the us. So these are the 3 key segments that will run through the conference on the 2 days.
That's very interesting indeed. Are you planning on bringing more conferences to Sri Lanka, more international ones perhaps?
So the international conference we run is once in 2 years. However, next year it's going to be 5 years for the chapter, and we're really looking forward to kind of celebrate that and to really kind of impart something for people. What is also interesting is, I think, okay, yes, one is the big events we do, but every month, Niresh, we make sure we do an education session, and sometimes it's a webinar, Sometimes it's an in-person session. So on the webinars, we get foreign speakers to come and speak, and we see that there's a lot of knowledge that comes in, and we offer these free in certain instances. So it's actually an invitation for the community. If you are curious about coaching, you want to hear about it, there is a body in Sri Lanka. So connect with us and stay tuned, because every month throughout the year there is something that will happen to enrich them. Yeah.
Right. And if people want to be in touch with your chapter, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I think one is ICF Colombo chapter.com is our website. So anyone who wants to, they can go in there and contact us. Similarly, the ICF Colombo chapter conference page is on these days. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of social media buzz. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, we are quite active in all channels. So ICF Colombo chapter, and just search us, you will find us there. And we have an amazing exco who is always ready to help anyone. So in the chapter, Niresh, we have two categories of membership. One is a ICF Global member, and this is mostly people who have studied coaching, who are certified coaches. We also have another category called affiliates. Here we have enthusiasts who come in to first get to understand what this is, and we even have homemakers, parents who want to understand coaching. And I think that's a beautiful way to step in and see if you want to get serious with it. So there is a transitioning period. We allow people to be there as an affiliate for about 2 years. So that's a good learning ground. And yeah, it's open to anyone who's enthusiastic to learn about coaching.
Right. And now when you say coaching, it could be coaching for a large group or a small group or even an individual. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So initially it always started as a one-to-one conversation. We always be like one-to-one person, individual coaching. But I think now things are evolving. We have something called team coaching, where generally this context falls under organizational perspective, where member of 5 people getting might be the same team. If the leadership identify, like I want my team to be upskilled, up level, the performance level is not enough, the connection, the collaboration is not enough, then what we do is we get into that particular team coaching environment, so they understand each other, we nurture the relationship better than what it used to be. So generally that's how at the moment it's evolving. Either we do an individual one-on-one coaching, or we go for a team coaching perspective. Yes, group coaching is there, but it would be a larger group that need a lot of effort, lot of energy to run that particular space. So that's how at the moment we run coaching conversations.
Right. And I'm afraid we're almost out of time. So my final question, Andrea, is do you feel that our corporates and our public sector, do they focus enough on coaching, or do they need to actually up the ante a bit and focus more on coaching in order to become leaner, meaner, and more competitive?
Yeah. So I would say yes to the question you asked. As a country, we should really up our interest towards coaching. And if I answer the question, are our corporates really looking at it? I would say yes again. Because in 2013, when we started, people were very confused about coaching. What is coaching? There were lots of myths and confusions. Right now, I can say with quite a lot of confidence that we can see that corporates are really seeing the impact coaching is bringing to their leadership teams. And they are actually intaking it. They are investing in coaching for their top talent. Is there more room? Definitely yes, because again we see a few selected corporates who use coaching of their leaders and the young leaders who are really grooming. And I think a myth there again is, Niresh, sometimes people think that coaching is to solve a problem or to correct an issue. I think now I see that corporates see it like, oh, this is an investment for our high potential leaders, because there's a lot more they can stretch. And we know that that's so true as human beings. So I feel we've come a long way. However, if you are not practicing coaching as an organization or as a leader, if you don't know coaching, I think it's high time.
Right, and I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to Andrea Jayathilake, President of the Colombo chapter of the International Coaching Federation, and Azeem Saheer, who is the Vice President of the Colombo chapter of the ICF. Thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Niresh.
Thank you so much for having us, Niresh.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Take care and good night.